We just visited Cuba, a delegation from Southern California, both Disciples of Christ and UCC congregations, 19 persons, and myself as a kind of a consultant and a facilitator of the visit, because I visit a lot Cuba, and I know Cuba, and I have been related ecumenically to many bodies and many organizations in Cuba. So for 10 days we share with congregations and the Cuban Council of Churches, visited the Martin Luther King Jr. and the seminary, and we gather from that visit, and not only from the analysis, but from the perspective of what the churches are doing. Number one of the things that the delegation, some of them were surprised, learned, is how vibrant and enthusiastic either churches in Cuba in terms of the evangelistic effort. But at the same time, combining that more and more with social action. So they discover how Pentecostals are involved, and Presbyterians for that matter, and Methodists, and Quakers, and Nazarenes, which are all active in the Cuban Council of Churches. They learn how they are working, responding to the economic and social crisis that Cuba is facing, like many countries in the world. But in Cuba's case, is really a situation that is desperate in many areas. The economy has been hitting hard in this global situation that we are facing now in 2011, and our group visited projects in which people are developing all these herbs and spices and providing locally for communities, how they are working in favor of those communities. And they insisted, we do what we're doing in social action, not only for our members. I remember this little tiny congregation, a Pentecostal congregation, Church of God in Christ, that they are working in the community. And we, our delegation was so impressed by that. It's an ecumenical effort, and even some congregations that are Baptist and conservative are opening up to the needs of the community that before they didn't do that as they should do as a church. And the other level is that there's a lot of professional people that belong to the church, doctors and lawyers and social workers. And for the first time in Cuba, you see people that were communists, some of them even members of the Communist Party. Now they are professed Christians publicly. There's no problem in Cuba, no repression because of this since 1996. But now, to wear your spirituality and being a Christian in society has become one of the most important features and one of the most important elements in any church in Cuba and in society. As a matter of fact, Raul Castro, the president of Cuba, the other day said in public, "I'm so impressed on how the Christians are present in our revolution. They always have been present, but now for us they become more visible, and we are able to see that." And then the third element that I think that we gather from the visit is that Cubans and Christians in Cuba love the churches in the United States. For our delegation of 9, they were in tears the last night we were in Cuba, because they realized that these churches don't have any hard feelings for the U.S. It's a different thing. And in my sermon that night, I insisted, we are in this together. We are churches. Our governments have differences, but we are in a partnership, in a fellowship. And because of that, we need to always stress that we are Christians and we are churches. And that's a level that we need to continually revisit and strengthen as churches. So usually I insist on this, and our 19 persons in that delegation rediscovered that those churches are churches the same way we are churches here in the United States in our context. And that was, to me, the highlight of our visit. And I hope that that will continue to be a strength of our relationship with Cuban churches.